Big tech is facing a backlash. You'll remember how Twitter banned former President Trump after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Facebook also suspended him indefinitely. And now several states are considering laws to penalize big tech for what the states call censorship. We're taking a look at the intersection of politics, free speech, and social media with a Green Bay native who worked for Facebook. Katie Harbath is a UW-Madison grad who was a public policy director at Facebook for a decade. She's speaking Wednesday at an event with UW's La Follette School of Public Affairs, and she joins us now on Upfront. Thank you for being with us, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
With so much attention being paid to this issue, but when you get down to its core, isn't it essentially big tech silencing certain viewpoints, and is that good for democracy?
I think that is what is the struggle and what society is trying to grapple with right now about what is the balance between making sure that people have the opportunity to speak and share their viewpoints on the issues, but then where that speech can potentially have harms. And I think the real debate that we are having today is both around what are those policies that different tech companies have about what speech is or is not acceptable, and how they do enforce those and who gets to make those decisions.
I'm curious, why did big tech get religion now? Was it seriously the January 6th attack?
I think that it's been a lot of things in the lead up to what did happen on January 6th. When I was at Facebook, we've been grappling with these issues for quite some time. And the election of 2016 was a real turning point when looking at the different ways that social media and the internet can be weaponized, whether it be by foreign governments or even people within the country. And we've been grappling with how to solve those problems ever since, and they're going to continue here even after January 6th.
Well, what do you say to claims, though, that the tech giants tolerated that misinformation for so long because it was beneficial to them? Those interactions went right to their bottom line.
So it actually, I don't really think was beneficial for the companies. You've seen them take, a reputational hit on it. It is not something that people on tech platforms really want, this misinformation, but it starts to get really tricky when you try to start to define some of this and really start to think about what should the penalties be around spreading misinformation, and also how do you define it. And so I really don't think that it is necessarily about making more money, but it is really trying to find that right balance between free expression and speech that can be harmful.
And then there's this other point that when big tech bans a politician, for instance, that speech doesn't go away. It just finds other places. So in the end, what good will this deplatforming do?
Well, I think that, that is one of the big questions that is out there right now about whether or not the deplatforming should be permanent of President Trump. Facebook has set up an external oversight board of currently 20 experts, will go up to 40 worldwide, that are considering that question right now about whether or not President Trump should be allowed back on the platform. And I think it's also raising a big question of, should it really be people like Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey who are the ones able to make these decisions versus a more democratic way?
Yeah, and how do you ensure that when you clear away the disinformation, there will be truth behind it?
Exactly, and I think a lot of it too is also better cleaning up the overall media ecosystem for people. There have so many options for their attention and their time of where they are getting information, and we need to continue to think about new ways to help people to filter through that and not just be getting viewpoints that are reinforcing their own, but also helping them to get a variety of viewpoints when they're trying to make decisions about who they're voting for at the ballot box.
We've talked about certain state legislatures contemplating various legislation on this front. Do you anticipate more of that?
I think we're seeing legislation all around the world of governments looking at different solutions to this. There's active legislation being considered in Europe right now. You mentioned quite a few states are looking at it, as well as the federal government. And so I think the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of legislation and regulation debated and introduced around these issues.
Katie Harbath, thank you very much for your insight today on Upfront.
Thank you.
Coming up next, the pandemic 100 years ago. Are we doing better or worse than our ancestors?
By and large, most Milwaukeeans grumbled about it, certainly, but they followed the rules.